Peter and I were each other's answered prayer, and our love for each other a mystery, one that we never at any point denied. The love, intimacy, and mystery of marriage is unique to each couple, and what presents on the outside isn't necessarily what's on the inside. That intimacy belonged to us. Genesis 2:24-25 says, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed." The beauty of our intimacy laid where no one else was. I yearned for this with my husband, and though many were let in, and many spoke much of us, this place where it was just us is where our best memories are laced. Riddled with grief and still disbelief, I did not welcome myself to Peter's memorial service last Thursday. But I watched, and many elements of my beloved husband was captured. Peter's memorial was held with his spiritual family, Shekinah Share. But as his wife, and having talked much with him, I know Peter too loved St. Peter's, having worked here, as was mentioned. And he was loved very much here too. He meditated on this place much, and it's also where our journey began. And I'm sure if he could somehow get a magical, special golden ticket to be buried here, he would. Many people mention Peter's driving of them across country. I experienced this firsthand from the beginning. He drove me to a wedding from Nottingham to London. Bear in mind, we had only met a few days prior, but we were just so fixed on each other from the beginning. And from the beginning, we took a chance and leap of faith with each other, something we did over and over and over again in our marriage. We had constant childlike faith, reserved for each other, and we loved to adventure and travel together and be with each other in the normalcy of life and the capsules and moments when nothing else mattered. Before we got married, I was also known to travel much across country, serving and aiding missions, and so was Peter, so it was a match made in heaven. One weekend, after spending a few days at a marriage course in Scotland, having driven from Nottingham, we then drove from Scotland to Cornwall from my godson's baptism for just a couple of hours, so Scotland to Cornwall. I think we napped in Nottingham for a bit in between. We were the kind of people, that wasn't the norm, but we weren't the norm, and we were the kind of people that would travel 10 hours just to tell someone we loved them, give them a Bible, spend a bit of time with them. And that's how we sparked each other, that spontaneity, with such hope and zeal. And with this attitude and determination, we planned our wedding together. Yes, we were very determined to get married, and we did get married fast. Peter often told me he liked to drive me around, and even though I did offer, I too loved him to drive me around, and so it just worked. If he wanted to, I wanted him to. On our first drive, he brought me a frozen bottle of water and a normal bottle of water. He was full of much thought. He was a really thoughtful person, and his mind was always going. And I'd never known such a clear, intense, intentional, interested person. I was hooked. There are yearnings Peter and I had that were never actualized, and though I was not as vocal, the Lord Jesus knows the full picture of our love and all that has taken place in the 2.5 years that's gone past. Peter loved fireworks, and he would often tell stories how his parents would allow him to operate fireworks from a young age. He was truly full of sparks, doing whatever it takes to get that bang and beautiful picture he had in his head. And this was the case for many things in his life, as people have mentioned, and our marriage as well. He was determined, tunnel vision, no matter the consequence, no matter the debt. Ironically, married an accountant. His generosity was noteworthy, as His tenants would testify, but Peter loved people. Acceptance meant everything to him. He strove to be accepted, no matter the cost: jobs, cars, trips, gestures. Being there for his family, being there for his friends, his church, what fueled him. And even to the end, Peter had systems to cope, to be present for the people in his life, even when he wasn't in a good way. A week or so before Peter passed, he asked me to make sure I put a chair down for him in front of church, Shekinah Shur, while he was being prayed for. Fighting for strength, he got to church and from church, but this time I drove him. Finding out Peter was battling from pancreatic cancer all along was heartbreaking, and knowing the underlying agitations and how this affected us even before finding out. Peter and I had very unique dates, and he even took me to graveyards whilst telling me tales of men of God that were buried and their legacy. And one of them, he apparently had a punching healing ministry. I marveled. He often made me chuckle with his fun facts and his tales. Peter wanted to be buried, and I loved Peter too much to allow him to have an unattended cremation, because I know he wanted to be buried. In 1 Corinthians 15:51-52, it says, "Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed." In the mystery and intimacy of our marriage, I knew Peter wanted to be buried, and I couldn't allow him to go against the grain of this belief unto death when it mattered the most. Of all I fought for in our marriage, this is one thing that wouldn't allow us to fail in. His lot in eternity on the day of judgment and reckoning, when he stands before God, his creator, to give account for his life, body raised from being buried before his maker. We can all stand and give account for each other's life, as we often do at funerals. But a time will come when all of us will have to stand before God, and we'll have to give a true account of our personal lives before him, and he will judge our thoughts, our hearts, our words, our judgments, our actions on earth according to his holy standard. And let's just take a moment to reflect on that. There is no accolade from friend, brother, sister, dad, mother, pastor, husband, wife, though they are beautiful to hear, that can supersede the Lord's word and decision over each of us, one, when we stand before him on the day of judgment. This truth is what has been solidified the most in knowing Peter, that this time will come for us all. Peter and I's hearts were knitted together. Our mutual knowing of this is what kept us hoping through every season and every storm. And it was never, ever over for us yet. And neither of us were ready for him to be gone this soon. But as you said, he had a knowing inside of him. I let him know how grateful I was to have the opportunity to be his wife. I thank Lord he too was delighted that he was my husband. It was a privilege and honor to be by his side, day and night, serving him as his wife at the point of his need. I couldn't imagine myself anywhere else. The dates around his birth, our marriage, his death, and now purely due to availability, his now funeral and burial, are so interesting and significant to the two of us, just like Lisa said, her being her birthday. We would be looking intently into each other's eyes, holding hands and smiling, actually laughing, being silly even about the dates today if we could. I miss you, babes. I've never stopped missing and loving you. I leave all our joint hopes, dreams, desires, plans, memories with you today. I'll see you on the other side. I love you.